For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm gonna return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a
Taxi!
233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
This is Nnamdi Asomugha. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
Sensory sensitivity, repetitious behavior, lack of eye contact. You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400, WCOS Columbia, an iHeart radio station.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everyone. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on spectacular radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands, Sports Radio 100.1 The Fan in Florence, 920 AM in Manning. A little hitch in the giddy up yesterday in hour 1, but we figured out a way to get you the program in hour number 2. And I am saying some silent prayers here on the program today that we've got you here on the show this afternoon. Here's how you can be a part of things. 803-450-0086. That's the text line. Text us. 803-450-0086. 0086. You can also call that number and leave us a message. We'll play you on the show. You can participate with us in our chat rooms, whether you're on Facebook, whether you are watching the show on Twitter, whether you're watching on YouTube. Man, you put the message in, it comes to us here, and we've got a lot to get to today. We'll hear from Dabo Swinney. We'll hear from Amari Rodgers. We'll also hear from the offensive coordinator of the Miami Hurricanes, Rhett Lashlee. And that's where we begin. If you see the name of the program, the Stolen Signs edition of the show. I've got questions for you that as a sports fan, it's something that if you're a baseball guy, this bothers you maybe for some odd reason. I don't know. I'm kind of like, look, if your signs are capable of being stolen, work on your signs. Like if if it's so elementary and so simplistic that through a schedule people can figure out your signs, then hey, you know what? Figure it out. Complicate it a little bit more. Get some of those fancy billboards or whatever they call it that you hold up with a picture of Rocky Balboa, a boxing glove, a FedEx truck, and a fish on it. I mean, whatever it takes to make it work. That's me. Make it better. Improve it. I don't want to hear about, oh, well, you know, you signed and you figured out our signs. Get better signs. We had a guy coaching Little League Baseball when I was a kid, and for whatever reason, the sign for, picking out the best thing is quick little, pick of the nose, like take the best shot you got, whatever you need. So I don't know. I like to think I'm a little more complicated than that, but I do think that it's an issue that people probably raise too much concern about. All right, so here's the words today. Rhett Lashley, offensive coordinator of the Miami Hurricanes. Again, the 7th-ranked Hurricanes will come into Death Valley this weekend to take on your Clemson Tigers. Again, silent prayers throughout the program. Here's Rhett Lashley earlier today talking about Clemson's defense. And here's the question and answer. I left out a part where he was asking about a player, but this is more specifically to the point.
Hey, Coach. The second question just has to do with, hand signals and stuff like that. I know Clemson in the past has been accused of stealing them. How careful you have to be when you're relaying plays from the sideline and so forth.
In terms of hand signals, yeah, I mean, look, that happens everywhere in college football. And Clemson is known well for doing it, but so are a lot of other people. It's just part of the game. And I think we got to be aware of it, but at the same time, we got to go play. And like I said, there's nothing against the rules of stealing signals. If you can, just like in baseball, if you can catch onto a signal, know a guy's stealing second, you might as well throw him out, So we just got to go play.
Yeah, so Clemson apparently is well known for doing this and being really good at it. It doesn't bother me. Listen, if this is chess and I can figure out your playbook before we start playing, that doesn't make me a bad guy. Doesn't make me a bad guy if I outsmart you. Doesn't make me a bad guy if I figure it out during the game, whether I figure it out on film, whenever. Now, questionable tactics that could go into stealing signs that we've seen in the past from teams is like maybe filming the opponent's sidelines and doing things of that nature and then reviewing tape that way. But I'm talking about just the day-to-day operations on the gridiron. Are you bothered at all by the comments there from Rhett Lashley? Are you fired up a little bit? Did you need any extra oomph to get behind it? I don't think so. I said, look, perfectly great explanation, perfectly great, great point. I mean, if that's what Clemson's good at doing, if that's a part of Brent Venables, doesn't bother me. 803-450-0086. I mean, give us your thought. Is this sour, kind of a sour milk deal? Is he just crying? Or is this a legitimate argument to be made that coaches shouldn't be allowed to do that? I like what Rhett Lashley said. He said, look, in baseball, it happens. If you can steal the sign and know what's coming, why not go for it? I mean, I've always wondered more and more about why that aspect of the game is so crucial to some people. It's not to me. It's not to me. Clemson Jacob said, Swanee, is Miami giving an excuse for Saturday already? Yeah, right. What do you call that? Hedging your bets a little bit? Yeah, that's it. I'm hedging my bets. That's the way you come out a winner every time. Mike says, tell him to huddle up, Swanee. That's a part of it, Mike, but I think, too, they're just talking about the signals in general. But like I said, I mean, my coach had a little pick out a good one. If you see a guy tap the side of his helmet, if it's a quarterback, it probably means that he sees something in a one-on-one matchup for a wide receiver. And again, the signs are so convoluted and complicated at this point. I've always thought that the ultimate signal for me would be having somebody who is no part of what's going on signaling in the plays. That's kind of been my thing for the longest time. So, like, you see Brent Venables out there, and Brent Venables has got some really good signs, like the one that looks like he's shooting it's like he's a tank, kind of going around in a circle. I would like it to just be some other guy that we have no clue, what his role is, and, well, if he's got his hand on his left hip, it's going to be a blitz. Hand on his right hip, we're going to drop into coverage. Like somebody that you're not expecting to even watch. I didn't find any furor in this comment. Again, we'll play it for you. Rhett Lashley, ask a question. Here's the question and response.
Hey, Coach. The second question just has to do with, hand signals and stuff like that. I know Clemson in the past has been accused of stealing them. How careful you have to be when you're relaying plays from the sideline and so forth.
In terms of hand signals, yeah, I mean, look, that happens everywhere in college football. And Clemson is known well for doing it, but so are a lot of other people. It's just part of the game. And I think we got to be aware of it, but at the same time, we got to go play. And like I said, there's nothing against the rules of stealing signals. If you can, just like in baseball, if you can catch onto a signal, know a guy's stealing second, you might as well throw him out, So we just got to go play.
Part of the game, not against the rules. We just got to go play the game. 803-450-0086. You can text us anytime, any place, anywhere. There are probably some people out there, because Rhett Lashley also talked a good bit about the fact that over the past 3 or 4 years, Clemson's only given up 28 points or more just a couple of times. I think maybe 3 times. One of those, of course, in the national championship game a season ago to LSU. But for some people, hearing that, it might make them feel like, oh, well, Brent Venables really isn't, the best defensive coordinator in the business right now. He's just a guy that's stealing people's signs.
How dare you fill my head with such loathsome propaganda?
And I agree. Propaganda. Exactly. I mean, it's all a part of the game. Lashley recognizes that. It's not a big deal to me. Again, for Clemson, I think one of the things that I really love about this team, for sure, from all the coverage that we've got to do with them, is the fact that they've played in big games. They're seasoned and ready for this. What I love about Miami is that no matter how distant or how far away they get from being the U, they still are. And so whenever you get a chance to line up against them, whether that's in the ACC Championship, 38-3, whether that's down in Coral Gables when Clemson put the beat down on Al Golden's team 58-0, and Dabo Swinney at the halftime, I think this is the thing, and this might be the moment. Like, we could go back through whether it was the field goal, Catanzaro's field goal against LSU. We could go back to, was it the, getting smacked around in the Orange Bowl by West Virginia, 70-33? Or was it Clemson in the midst of their first run to a national championship game, beating Miami down 58-0, but having Dabo Swinney keep that team out of the locker room at the halftime? You win with class and you lose with class. And the conversation that took place on the field that day, was that one of those stepping points in Dabo Swinney's legacy that's led Clemson down this path? Was that a moment where Clemson went from, okay, this really good team who can still maybe lose their focus if you get under their skin a little bit, if you get after them, to Clemson is now one of the most disciplined teams on the gridiron in college football? Is that a moment that took Clemson from losing some games along the way because they lost their focus, kind of that inner peace, whatever it is, the Mr. Miyagi thing that went on with Daniel-san back in Karate Kid? It was something about internally and who you are and what you represent and what you bring to the table, play in and play out. And in that moment, while Clemson was a talented team, a great team, they were losing their composure. They were allowing Miami to dictate who they were as a team. And I'll be honest, since that game, I don't recall a time where I felt like Clemson wasn't being Clemson. You can almost remember that game seeing it like a splinter under your fingernail, just continuing to jab and pick and scratch and claw and hope that Clemson would break. And the Tigers started to. They didn't even go to the locker room. I think it was a huge moment. Obviously, it was at Miami, but for your Clemson Tigers, it was a moment of not only did your coach in a hostile environment reset the focus, lay out the groundwork, go against the norms and not take this team to the locker room. But then, furthermore, at the end, the final result, 58-0, an absolute annihilation of one of the power brokers, not at that time. But let me tell you, you put 58-0 on Miami, you put 58-0 on Michigan, Southern Cal, Texas, you go around the horn, major programs in college football, you put that type of beat down on a team like that, it resonates. We're talking 5 national titles in the 80s and early 90s. We're talking about one of the marquee programs from coast to coast, people buying merchandise in Miami and Kansas City and in Seattle for the Miami Hurricanes. And Clemson went in and throttled them. Reset things at the half. That was a huge moment for Clemson. Jacob says, hey, that Notre Dame win in 2015 was huge too. Really was. And that game, 5 years ago this past week or so? Something like that? Right at it, at least. Because that was the weekend of the historic floods in the state of South Carolina. And, that was a moment where I think there are games. Miami was won back in 2004, 2005, whatever year they came into Death Valley for the first time as a member in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Much like that game, much like Notre Dame in 2015, there are certain teams that carry an ambiance and an air to them that you just don't, you can't hardly deny. And Miami, no matter how far they've fallen from where they used to be, they still carry that. When Sebastian the Ebus comes running out and Miami's in the white tops with the white helmets, white pants looking crispy on the road, you go, the Hurricanes are here. You start thinking back to Howard Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson. You start diving through the years and years of really good football that were played down there when college football was run by the state of Florida with Florida State, Miami, on and on and on. They still bring that to the table, even this far removed from it. And they desire to get back. That's the other thing. They desire to get back to that level. And it's good for college football. Trevor Lawrence said as much. I mean, these young men at Clemson understand what Miami football is and what it's meant to college football. And I think your hope as a Clemson fan, certainly as a Clemson player, by the way, if you're watching the show, like, share, subscribe. Let's bump the numbers up. Let's get the people in the building. Let's get some people hanging out with us here today talking about your Clemson Tigers. Maybe Clemson in 20 years will look back and nationally people will still talk about them as one of the big dogs in the sport. If everything stopped today, if Clemson fell apart the rest of the year, they just tank city, never play back in the college football playoff, maybe down the road people would still talk about them. Maybe. But I think in order to kind of cross over that hurdle, whatever you want to call it, into that realm of you don't go away no matter what's happened to you, maybe Nebraska's sort of in that realm. Although I would argue if they don't do something soon, they feel like if Nebraska you remember the old cartoon where the two old boys are sitting in a boat, they've been stranded on an island, and all of a sudden they're looking at each other. The one guy sees the one guy as a hamburger, and the other guy sees a hot dog. Like, that's where Nebraska is. Like, you guys are getting so far out to sea, you're starting to hallucinate. You might want to come in, Scott Frost, for like a year or two and get relevant again. But I feel like this is sort of where Clemson is. Jacob says he thinks the Tigers are building that right now. I wholeheartedly agree. But it's games like this that Clemson have much more experience in this Miami team. And I asked Dabo Swinney on Saturday after that ball game about adversity. I mentioned this yesterday. I'll bring it up again for those people that weren't here with us yesterday. I asked him, I said, Coach, it's amazing. When this team faces a little bit of adversity, maybe a Virginia drive for a score, boom, Trevor Lawrence right back. When this team faces a little bit of adversity, fourth quarter, final few minutes against Ohio State, 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdown, Travis Etienne. I mean, it is amazing to me the resilience, how sharp this team can be. Like, we can look at the defensive numbers and giving up 400 yards this past weekend. We can look at some of the offensive plays where you just kind of were like, man, that didn't feel like Clemson football. But what I don't think you can deny is that when push came to shove at any point, Dabo Swinney said, look, we were never in trouble in this game. Trevor Lawrence said after an 18-point victory, I guess that tells you about what, who we are, and said an 18-point win for a lot of people doesn't feel good enough. But the reality is when Clemson needed an answer, when Clemson needed a drive, boom, they put one together. And it's not something that's like new to this team. It's been happening. 803-450-0086. Sign stealing. Do you have a problem with it personally? Put the message in our chat. We'd love to hear from you. By the way, our poll question sort of deals with defense over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. If you've never been, check out ClemsonSportsTalk.com, ClemsonRadio.com will get you there as well. How many points, our Kaufman's fan poll, how many points will number 7 Miami score this weekend in Death Valley? 0 to 10, 11 through 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, or could the Hurricanes put a 41 spot on the board? Coming up, we'll hear from Dabo Swinney here on the show that shakes the Southland. There's hurricanes everywhere. Coach Swinney had to say earlier today, talking about the fact that there's a little tropical storm that could develop maybe into a hurricane at some point, and some remnants of that could be passing through the upstate on Saturday night during Clemson's matchup with Miami. That storm appears to be tracking off a little bit further west, though, so we may not have to worry about it. But Dabo Swinney's youngest son also facing off against a team of Hurricanes this weekend in high school football. So Swinney said earlier today, there's hurricanes everywhere. You can read about that over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. We'll hit a quick break. We come back. We'll hear from your head ball coach, Dabo Swinney, right after this.
Here's your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword family to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's family to 200-200.
Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive, home of the best tire prices in Columbia, guaranteed. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Our first look at the road shows a wreck on 2 Notch at I-20, also an accident Highway 6 at Andrew Corley Road. The 103.5 FM WVOC traffic tip line number is 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina Service Benefit Plan. They say defense wins championships. Defense protects your health too. If you're a federal employee in South Carolina, active or retired, the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Service Benefit Plan packs a wallop. Learn more at fepblue.org. We've been standing beside federal employees since 1960.
When you get in your car, you need the best directions to get where you want to be.
Will arrive at your retirement in 8 years.
The same is true for your retirement. You need a voice to guide you along the way. Join Pat Struby for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby. Pat's 18 years of experience can help make your retirement journey feel like a drive down easy street.
Arriving at your retirement.
Saturdays, 6 a.m. on Fox Sports Radio, and Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 9 on 560 WVOC for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby.
Ever had that small crack in your windshield that turned into a very large crack overnight? Hi, I'm Ray.
And I'm Mary Ann, and we're with Absolute Glass.
We are your only local high-end auto glass specialist in the Midlands, used by high-end car dealerships, and we absolutely have you covered.
Whether it's a small or big crack, you can be confident in our certified technicians to get the job done right the first time.
Visit AbsoluteGlassInc.com for a quote or call 951-7200.
That's AbsoluteGlassInc.com or 951-7200.
I'm Jamie Harrison, candidate for the United States Senate, and I approve this message.
Born to a teenage mom in Orangeburg, raised by his grandparents, he overcame poverty. Earned a scholarship to Yale, went to Georgetown Law. then came back to give back. Jamie Harrison, running for the Senate to restore hope to a broken political system, to put country before party. As a son of rural South Carolina, he understands our lives, what it means to go without health care, attend an underfunded school, live in places that feel forgotten by the people in power. That's why Jamie's plan does what he's always done, brings people together, Democrats and Republicans who don't always agree, to work for all of South Carolina. To Jamie, it's not about left versus right. It's about right versus wrong. Faith, family, and service. Those are Jamie's guiding values, and we need them now more than ever.
Paid for by Jamie Harrison for U.S. Senate.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Tell the world I see with an emoji to stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Follow Clemson Sports Talk on Twitter at Clemson Sports. Now more of Clemson Sports Talk. Take it away, Dad.
Back at it on a Tuesday afternoon. Lawton Swan with you. Thank you for hanging out with us over on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can share the show. And head to our website, clemsonsportstalk.com. So some breaking news that came in just a few minutes ago. Boy, if 2020, could you just stop? I mean, could you just stop? Eddie Van Halen, lead singer of the incredible rock band Van Halen, passed away today after a cancer battle at the age of 65. That just coming across the board here for us. Thought we would give you a quick update on that. The Clemson Tigers had the Miami Hurricanes set to face off this Saturday inside Death Valley. Dabo Swinney spoke earlier today. Love the fact that this game's under the lights. I know so many of you are excited about that. And, you know, I'm also interested, how many of you are going? I mean, how many of you are going to this game? And the reason I bring that up is, again, 20,000 people. That's not a ton of Tiger fans in the venue, but it's easily the biggest game for Clemson so far this year at home, and potentially at home the entire year. So, you know, I would expect if we're going to see a quote-unquote capacity crowd, this would be the one, right? I mean, it just feels like that's how this should work. This should be the biggest crowd, 7:30 on ABC for the Clemson Tigers and the Miami Hurricanes. All right, Dabo Swinney earlier today was talking about Miami, and here's a couple of quotes from him. We'll begin with his opening statement right out of the gates.
Well, got the biggest challenge that we've had all year for sure, and in Miami, this is a really complete football team. Manny's done a great job down there, and I mean they got dudes everywhere. Pretty easy to see when you turn the film on. You know, offensively they're playing with a lot of confidence. They're fast. This quarterback is a special player. Running backs are physical. They got speed and length outside. Tight end. They got two tight ends that are probably, you know, first 2-round type guys at the next level. Very experienced offensive line. Play incredibly fast with their tempo, and got our hands full for sure. And they're balanced in what they do. But you know, looking at you know, their quarterback, I mean he's a great quarterback. I mean he can do it all. There's really nothing he can't do. He can make all the throws, and when he runs it, I mean he's he's a running back. He's got that mindset too of a running back when he takes off running. Very physical. He's averaging 5.4 yards after contact. So this is a very, very physical player, and he's averaging 15 yards a scramble. He's made some huge plays in the passing game, and again, just a really good scheme and a big challenge for us. But good players all across the board. Like I said, very experienced up front, a bunch of starters back, and you mix in this quarterback, and all of a sudden you got the recipe for a lot of success. So
there you go, Dabo Swinney talking about the Miami Hurricanes. And again, the thing that I think people may forget, and this is a Miami team that I thought very highly of a season ago, finished 6-7. It was disappointing, a disappointing campaign for Manny Diaz in year one. Now trying to, right the ship in the midst of COVID-19 and everything that's going on that front, but more so now sitting there in the top 10, whether you believe that's by the fact of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten not playing and, where they would be, yada, yada, yada. We're still talking about in Saturday's game, a top 10 opponent coming into Death Valley, and that means they do it on offense, they do it on defense, and also on special teams. And Dabo Swinney was asked about that fact that, special teams is an area that Clemson's done pretty well in this year as well, and how proud he is of those guys.
Yeah, after 3 games, that's been the most pleasing part. If you ask me one area of our team that I'm just most excited about, it's been our special teams. After 3 games, we've made a difference in the game. That's a part of our plan to win is to make a difference in the game. To create field position for the offense, create field position for the defense, to score points. Special teams does all those things. And so really, really proud of what we've been able to do, the consistency there. Spires has been really, really good for us in executing what we need when we need it. And, our Potter and our whole battery's been excellent there. Our coverage has been good. But the biggest positive has been our return game. We've had some explosives in the return game, and then the improvement with BT. Those were 2 areas that were where we were the most inconsistent last year. And so far, after 3 games, we've been very, very good there. So hopefully that'll continue.
And again, the Clemson Tigers, whether you want to call them heavy favorites, 14-point spread in this ball game, but when you start to look at like the matchup predictor, Clemson expected to win like 86% of the time. So really positive results on all fronts for Clemson from that standpoint. But this Miami team is going to do everything they can to really disrupt this Clemson Tiger offense, to try to make Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable, and whether that's just using their guys up front, that front 4. And again, they don't have the Russo kid. The Russo kid opted out. So, they got to be a little bit disappointed from that standpoint. But here's what Coach Swinney had to say about what Miami is going to try to do, he thinks, schematically against this Tiger team from a number of different looks and from what they give you up front.
Well, they want those guys that's where it starts, for those guys to be disruptive. And they are. They're very disruptive. I mean, they're not sit and read guys. They're off the ball, in your grits, quick guys. So they're not sitting around waiting on anything. They're trying to create havoc, but they bring a fair amount of pressure as well. Whether it be zone pressures or blitzing more than you can block. I mean, they mix it up, and we've only got what we got so far on tape, but they definitely are not afraid to bring pressure, and they've shown that, whether it be corner blitzes, plugging the backers, adding on, whatever it may be. But it definitely starts with those guys up front and just being who they are and being fast and physical at the line of scrimmage.
There you go, Dabo Swinney talking about the Miami Hurricanes defensive front. He said they are in your grits. That's a new one. Like I've heard a lot of things, but having somebody in my grits doesn't sound fantastic. Grits that can't hold the heat, also not fantastic. All right, so we got a couple of other comments from Dabo Swinney coming up here on the program. Don't forget hour number 2, Mike Yuba. We hit a break. We come back with more of the show that shakes the Southland.
Get in your car. You need the best directions to get where you want to be.
Will arrive at your retirement in 8
The
years.
same is true for your retirement. You need a voice to guide you along the way. Join Pat Struby for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby. Pat's 18 years of experience can help make your retirement journey feel like a drive down easy street.
Arriving at your retirement.
Saturdays, 6 a.m. on Fox Sports Radio. And Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 9 on 560 WVOC for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby.
Many people never believe that they will need a lawyer to help them navigate our legal system. Then one day, you need just that. When you've been injured, the deck is stacked against you, and you need an advocate to stand up for your rights. William Alexander focuses his practice on assisting those who have been injured in car wrecks and other personal injuries, helping you get your life back on track. Call today for your case strategy, 803-571-0039, or visit them online, whalawoffice.com. The Law Office of William H. Alexander is licensed in South Carolina and Georgia. Principally located at 222 Main Street in Barnwell.
For all your plumbing problems and needs, On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air is here to help. Available 24/7 to serve you with trained technicians, not trained salespeople. Whether your plumbing job is large or small, it's the right job for On-Call. Receive installations, repairs, and everything in between from the company you can trust to do it right. On-Call is your locally owned and operated plumbing company. Go to OnCallSC.com.
On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Pick up the phone and we'll be right there. Call 781-HELP.
Live from the $1,500 instant rebate AAA Heating and Air Weather Center.
Look for clear skies tonight with lows around 60. Tomorrow, a lot of sunshine and warmer, highs mid-80s. For Channel 25 ABC Columbia, I'm Chief Meteorologist John Farley.
This report is sponsored by South Carolina Education Lottery. Check out Double Your Million, the new $10 scratch-off with the top prize of $1 million. But that's not all. Enter your non-winning tickets into the second chance drawing for a chance to win up to $2 million. It's twice as nice. See SCEducationLottery.com for game odds and details.
Every year, Steve Faircal climbs the stairs at the John Hancock Center in Chicago, 94 floors to the top.
It's called the hustle up the Hancock.
It's hard to believe when you watch Steve today that a few years ago, his lungs were failing and he was fighting to survive.
For 8 hours a day, someone was pounding on my chest to try and keep my lungs clear. I honestly don't think I had more than a couple weeks to live.
That's when Steve received the gift of life, a double lung transplant made possible by an organ donor.
After I got my new lungs, I started doing things that I had never been able to do. I never knew that breathing could feel this good.
Steve climbs to honor his donor and to raise awareness for organ, eye, and tissue donation.
Wouldn't you like that when you left this beautiful planet, that you could save a few lives on your way out? It's an incredible gift.
Imagine what you could make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You're bringing your daughter to a pop concert. Do you A, wear earplugs,
Isn't this fun, Dad?
I have a soft pretzel.
or B, just roll with it?
Justin! OMG! I love you, Justin! I love you!
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
All girls in kindergarten through 5th grade. You're invited to a free robot building or animal dance party with Girl Scouts. It's virtual and a great way to make new friends while having a meaningful experience. No membership necessary. To register, go to gssc-mm.org.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Serving Columbia at 1400. And the world on the iHeartRadio app.
Again, good to be with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. I keep wanting to say Monday because we didn't do hour number one yesterday, but thanks to Rob Sanders back in studio in Columbia helping us out and getting us fixed up yesterday when the show wouldn't get rocking and rolling. My buddy John Merriam, the engineer extraordinaire, helping us out, and then Christopher Thompson also a part of making sure that you had some audio in the first hour, and we figured out how to get you audio in hour number two. But the magic of the David Copperfield of radio with what we pulled off yesterday. I thought we might have to do the same today, but we didn't. We got this thing. I think we got it working. Thumbs up if we're working. You can also hit us up over on Twitter at Clemson Sports. That's Clemson news, notes, information, and more. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Clemson Sports Talk. We are up in your grits. That's what Dabo Swinney. I tell you, every once in a while, when Dabo goes all Pelham, Alabama on the conversation, even I, from little old Barnwell, I'm going, I never heard that one. All right, Dabo Swinney was also asked about Rhett Lashlee and this offense that Miami brings to the table. We brought up Lashlee earlier, talking about sign stealing, if you will. And again, I don't think anything he said was so bad. It was just, look, it's a part of the game. If your signs aren't, if I hold up a sign that says our next play is a toss sweep, whose fault is that? Is that your fault for reading it? I don't think so. Dabo Swinney was asked about Rhett Lashlee because, of course, Lashlee used to be the offensive coordinator down at Auburn, and Clemson saw that Auburn offense and wanted to get a little bit of a comparison between what he saw then versus what he saw reviewing Miami's tape this season.
Well, I think he's running it for sure, and I think he's probably grown and evolved a little bit. I think he went to Connecticut and then he ended up over at SMU. So I think as coaches, you learn and evolve as you go through it. But he's still got his core philosophy. He's going to play fast. He's going to play really, really fast, and try to create some disruption in your communication and your ability to line up, and being disciplined and getting your eyes on the right things and create some explosives through that. I think that he's very committed to the run. There's no question about that. They've been really, really good running the football. They're balanced. They take their shots. First play of the game, downfield versus UAB. First play of the game against Louisville, boot. So they're going to take shots. They're going to create some gadgetry, if you will. Some of the things that I'm sure he's gotten from Auburn as well over his years with Gus. But he's done a good job. Did a great job at SMU. Did a great job. And, have no doubt that he'll have them well prepared for us Saturday night.
Get your gadgetry out of my grits, Rhett Lashlee. Dabo Swinney there talking about the Miami Hurricanes offensive coordinator. Coach Swinney was also asked about Bryan Bresee, true freshman defensive lineman, and if he's gotten what he hoped out of the number one overall prospect a season ago, or coming into this year, I should say. I don't want to make you think this is an old kid. This is a guy that just got out of high school. Whether or not they've gotten everything they could out of Bryan Bresee, and are there any former Tigers that Bryan Bresee perhaps reminds Coach Swinney of?
We're getting more than we could have expected out of Bryan Bresee. He's a true freshman, and he's got 2 or 3 sacks in 3 games, and 2 of those games limited snaps just by nature of the game. So he's got a bright future, and he's going, if he stays healthy, he'll be a freshman All-American type guy, all that stuff for sure, because he just very gifted and disruptive. Game is natural to him. He's so physical and big and athletic, but man, he's just going to get better and better as he goes through his career. So Trevor was a great player as a freshman, led us to a national championship, but there's no comparison between Trevor now and Trevor as a freshman. So Bryan is a special talent, but far from a complete player. But we're getting, more than you could have ever expected from a true freshman. So excited about him. As far as comparing him, I don't really know. We've had some big time. He's a combination of a lot of guys. He's certainly athletic like Christian. He's kind of freaky big like Dexter. Not quite Dexter, but the combination of that athleticism and size makes him unique. He's got a motor like Grady Jarrett. Just something like that. You just can't coach that. You either got that or you don't. And he's got that type of tenacity. He loves it. He's a great teammate, and so he's a little bit of a combination of a lot of the guys that we've had come through here. But hopefully, as he goes through his career, I'll have a little more clarity.
There you go. Dabo Sweeney earlier today talking about Brian Brzee, the true freshman defensive lineman who's been really a menace. And again, I think it's important to note in limited action. But what Clemson will face coming up this weekend in D'Eriq King, the starting quarterback there for the Hurricanes, is unique simply because of his versatility with the ball in his hand. Again, downfield passing game, yes, but really it's what he can do with his legs that throughout his career has been the staple, whether he was at Houston or now in 3 games with the Hurricanes. They work great, though, and I want you to remember this. Not that this matters all in what's going to happen Saturday, but this Miami team was not overly sharp in their season opener against UAB back on September the 10th. Now, since then, 47-34 against Louisville. But what did we see in that game? If you go back and you remember watching that game, lots of busts from Louisville's secondary. Now, there are a portion of those busts that are created by scheme and what you're trying to do as an offense. Watching that Miami-Louisville game, I thought the majority of the busts were actually more so on Louisville's part. Being out of position, being confused on their coverages. And so I really put a lot of that blame on the Louisville Cardinals. And then Florida State, just a hot train wreck that Florida State is right now, 52-10, the final score in that matchup. But this Miami team certainly presents a unique look for your Clemson Tigers. I'll tell you what we'll do. We got a break coming up, but we've also got some audio from Amari Rodgers. We'll dive into that as well here on the show that shakes the Southland.
Kirk Commercial Construction is a licensed general contractor in South Carolina. Since 2011, Chris Kirk, a Columbia native with 20 years of construction experience, has believed in meeting his customers' needs. Kirk Commercial Construction is capable of performing any retail or office expansion, new construction, metal building, or commercial renovation work. In addition to Kirk's commercial construction projects, their service division can assist you with commercial and maintenance tasks. If you need it done right, call 803-250-2495 or kirkcommercialconstruction.com.
Hey, golfers. Have you been to the golf capital of the world yet? Myrtle Beach Golf offers a variety of custom packages featuring nearly 80 courses. Golfers have the option to create the exact experience they're looking for. Plus, Myrtle Beach Golf provides top-notch accommodations with over 15 resorts, all guaranteed to be a hole-in-one. Come join us for a short drive away in Myrtle Beach for your best golf trip by par. Book now at myrtlebeachgolf.com.
Order! Continue, Ms. Garner.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you earn unlimited double miles on every purchase every day.
Objection! My credit card doesn't earn double miles on every purchase.
I object to your objection. With the Capital One Venture Card, you earn unlimited double miles on every purchase.
Order.
And right now, earn 100,000 bonus miles when you spend $20,000 in your first year.
I'll allow it.
No further questions, Your Honor. Well, just one. What's in your wallet?
Limited time offer. Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
iHeartRadio is the #1 choice for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one. No one makes it easier to hear everything you love in one free app.
I got podcasts, my music, and my radio stations all together.
You can download podcasts right to your phone.
Every time I finish a podcast, there's this recommendation ready for me with another one.
I love this app because it's all in one place.
If you're not one of the tens of millions who have the app, download iHeartRadio for free today and start listening.
iHeartRadio.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans. But in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
There are many sounds in your day-to-day life. There are sounds that wake you up. Sounds that make you smile. Sounds that energize you. And sounds that help you relax. But there are some sounds that can alert you to danger and can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you information about severe weather events, Amber Alerts, or other emergencies in your area. With critical information from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know, wherever you are. For more information, visit ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Online at foxsportsradio1400.com. On your phone with the iHeartRadio app and on hundreds of devices like Alexa, Google Home, Xbox, and Sonos. An iHeart radio station.
Clemson Sports Talk, Lawton Swan with you on a Tuesday. Coming up, Mike Uval. We're going to roll Amari Rogers over to hour number 2 after our interview with Mike Uval. We'll find out his thoughts on the 0-2 South Carolina Gamecocks, his thoughts on the Clemson Tigers, who are now 3-0 off of their 41-23 victory over Virginia, but a game in which Clemson yielded, over 400 yards of total offense in that game, and Brennan Armstrong, the quarterback, passed for 270 yards with 3 touchdowns, a couple of interceptions, one phenomenal interception by Andrew Booth, just sick. Just an incredible play by Andrew Booth. And then also rushed for 89 yards on 22 carries. So the thing that I did see too, though, and this is kind of where I wanted to head with you. By the way, you could comment, be a part of the show any way you want. Teacher Leslie gives us the thumbs up. Thanks, Leslie. Kim says, we just reload every year. Fern Like Prism says, rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. And then Jacob wants to know, what am I most concerned about coming into this Miami game? We'll talk about that, I guess, here in this segment, Jacob. So, one of the things that I think is amazing about where Clemson sits and where Alabama sits and where other people sit is you can have a start to a season like Clemson's had, 3-0, and really, like Dabo Swinney said, when I tried to, I wouldn't say I challenged him on it, but I said adversity, whether that's a drive that you give up a touchdown, whether that's a game where you don't feel like you play your best. Swinney said we really haven't, had much adversity or any adversity, I think were his exact words at that time. And he worked his way into talking about some adversity. But you look at this Clemson Tiger team and the challenge that they now present for Miami. And the Hurricane want to be the U. They want to be what we talked about earlier in the show. And Clemson's the measuring stick in the ACC. Clemson's the measuring stick nationally. Miami had a disappointing year a season ago, as I mentioned earlier. This is a chance for them to really take a step forward and kind of present themselves, poke their chest out a little bit. Or sometimes these games for programs like Miami can really be a gut punch and a reminder that you're not on that same level as Clemson and Alabama and other teams. And so the results of the game, yes, and how it looks, I think will tell a bigger story about this Miami team and what their year might look like as well. David Pollack said on ESPN's podcast, one of the ESPN college football podcasts I subscribe to, said we are used to Clemson destroying everybody and looking great. Last week, watching that Virginia game, it wasn't great. It wasn't vintage Clemson football. Here's what I'm seeing across college football. I'm seeing a lot of average. I'm seeing a lot of meh. In the past, I've seen better execution, and now I think everything is meh. And everyone is finding themselves more than any other season compared to when you have so much time to prepare. In the past, you have to get cupcakes to get ready. We see a lot of teams struggling to find their identities. Clemson doesn't struggle with Virginia usually. I'll take a moment. Clemson doesn't struggle against Virginia usually. A more correct statement would be Clemson doesn't play Virginia usually.
I am smart. I am smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Am I wrong? I mean, like Clemson, I don't know if it's a misstatement or what. Clemson doesn't play like this usually against Virginia. They don't play them usually. Kind of weird. But it is what it is. Clemson played Virginia in 2019 in the ACC title game. They played them this past Saturday, and prior to that, they played them in 2013. Usually. They hadn't played them. He said their biggest thing with Clemson was their defense and giving up 400 yards, and Virginia's able to do what they wanted to do. College football's been a mixed bag, and I don't know what to expect. I think part of this mixed bag goes back to what I've said since week one about the stadiums with little to no fans. 20,000 fans is not going to impact the game to that degree. It's not going to disrupt Virginia the way it normally would. There's an advantage to being the road teams this year. It is a decided advantage to be the road team this year by comparison to what you're normally dealing with, whether you are number one Clemson or the last place team in college football. A decided advantage. Kirk Herbstreit said, quote, I don't know if Brent Venables went to bed Saturday night with the way his defense played. Herbstreit went on to say, I'd expect the cream to start to rise to the top starting with this weekend now that we've gotten a few games in. I think we'll see teams start to play to their ability. Let's not forget, too, from Clemson's standpoint on defense, again, Tyler Davis, perhaps their best interior defensive lineman, didn't play. Could have gone, but Clemson didn't feel compelled to put him in, even though he was chomping at the bit to get into the ballgame. The Tigers are beginning to build some continuity and a pecking order there in the secondary, opposite of Darian Kendrick. It's looking more and more like Andrew Booth may end up emerging. And I love his length. Kyle, checking out the program, says, go Tigers. Kyle, you the man. Thanks for hanging out with us. So I don't get all caught up in all that, conversation about how Clemson looked this past weekend and what concerns that should bring for this Miami game. I think if anything, a lot of it comes back to momentary complacency once you get a team where you think you're kind of controlling the game. If I felt like Clemson had a panic moment, had to fight to get back in that game, maybe today I'm feeling differently. Clemson had that game. They just held Virginia down, and they could have done it by about as big a margin as they wanted to. Hour 2, Mike Yuba joins us right after this.
Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports. Fox Sports Radio 1400. Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive, home of the best tire prices in Columbia, guaranteed. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Our first look at the road shows a wreck on 2 Notch at I-20, also an accident Highway 6 at Andrew Corley Road. The 103.5 FM WVOC traffic tip line number is 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by Trump Card, on video and on demand October 9th. There is a new and dangerous socialist movement in America, and it is threatening our American way of life. Find out who's behind it and how to stop it. Trump Card is Dinesh D'Souza's most important film yet, and it will be available on video and on demand beginning October 9th.
Just like the smartphone outdid the old flip phone and the DVR outdid the VCR, the patented powered water clean of Zero-Res is out cleaning those old methods by far. Zero-Res leads the cleaning industry in forward-thinking technology to clean your carpet, rugs, and upholstery with no soaps and no harsh chemicals. Just an insanely clean home. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $119. Mention you heard Christopher talking about it on this station. You'll get a hallway clean free. Schedule Zero-Res today at 803-262-4020 or book online ZeroResColumbia.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention all women who have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder and shower-to-shower talcum products have been linked to ovarian cancer. In February and May 2016, Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $72 million and $55 million by 2 juries to 2 women who contracted ovarian cancer after years of using talcum baby powder products. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used talcum powder prior to the diagnosis, call Talcum Powder Help Now today at 800-833-0112. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. The consultation is free and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. Don't fight this alone. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Powder Help Now at 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112.
Paid for by Bar Justice. Facebook knows that voting this year is a little trickier than usual, and you may have questions like how to register, vote by mail, and how to safely vote in person. That's why Facebook created the Voting Information Center. Get information from election authorities and experts at facebook.com/votinginfocenter. And don't miss the new podcast from iHeartRadio and Facebook called Why I'm Voting, where you'll hear more reasons to vote. iHeartRadio's Why I'm Voting, countdown to Election Day. Your vote is your voice.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Imagine if I told you that an earthquake was going to hit tomorrow right where you live. That it would be 6.5 in magnitude with aftershocks occurring twice 25 minutes apart. You'd no doubt talk with your loved ones, and you'd make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you an earthquake will happen tomorrow. But what if it does? Shouldn't you have a plan? Visit scemd.org and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by the South Carolina Emergency Management Division, FEMA, and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400, WCOS Columbia, an iHeart radio station.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. All right, remember those silent prayers? By the way, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. I don't know why I still got Dabo Sweeney rolling along the bottom. Somebody come hit me. Like, share, subscribe. Remember the silent prayers I asked for earlier? All right, here's your time, because I am hopeful that I can pull this off. This is a new way I'm having to do this. So Mike Yuva, who joins the show every Tuesday afternoon, I am going to try to get us up to as close to the point as we get him on the line before I punch what I would call the off button, if you will, hoping that if I do cut off of the air, I'm only off for the least amount of time possible. So I'm going to see if I can't get Mike here on the program for you, and we'll just see how it goes. So Mike Yuba joining the program. And again, once I know this will work, I won't panic anymore. And I won't know it's going to work until later. So, Mike, what's up, buddy?
Doing good. How you doing?
Well, Mike, yesterday we had some issues in the studio, so we've had to change some things up. So between you and me and the rest of our listeners, I'm just hopeful that your voice is actually going out on the air. So I'm going to have to double-check that while we're talking, just to be sure.
Well, if that's the case, I just got back to the station, so I won't take the elevator. I will walk the stairs and get some extra steps in for you. How about that?
Well, that's dedication, man, and I do appreciate that. Of course, your dedicated coverage not only to the Clemson Tigers, but to the South Carolina Gamecocks. And this week in the Upstate, man, a matchup of top 7 teams, the Miami Hurricanes come rolling in to take on Clemson. Just your initial thoughts early in the week on this game.
Well, I think, like we mentioned last week, on paper, this is a good matchup for Clemson to be able to get that strength of schedule up, even if Miami and Clemson, that gap right there is just not as close as what it says on paper, to be able just to continue to go out there and get better each week. Because, look, is the ACC this big, bad powerhouse of a conference? No. But at the same time, too, we know what Clemson's been able to do year in and year out over the last couple of years. And to be able to get things going, you need to be able to get some consistency. You need to be able to be playing your best football once you get later in the year. And this year, more than ever, you need to be able to do it well against teams like this, because if you can get to the bench a little bit quicker, being able to get guys some extra reps who you might have to call upon later in the year, if God forbid anything happens, injuries, COVID, it's going to be crucial. So being able to go up against a Miami team, like I said, on paper, from a top 10 ranking, it's a good matchup, but Clemson should still be able to go out there and take care of business.
Yeah, Clemson 14-point favorites, I think, right now in this ball game. And Mike, really looking at it, it feels like the shoe, so to speak, is on the other foot from where these two programs are versus where they've been in the past. And that kind of goes for Florida State and Clemson as well. I mean, the Tigers have really not just set the standard in the Atlantic Coast Conference, but also have become a real national power. So that's got to add a little something extra, some extra spice for the Hurricanes to feel like, hey, this is one of the teams that's sort of taken our crown, so to speak, that we feel like we used to own, and let's go try to get it.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, the very first college football game I went to was back in 2001 when the Miami Hurricanes were nationally ranked as the number 1 team in the land against Boston College, and Boston College almost pulled off the upset, believe it or not. But they had Ed Reed, Ken Dorsey, Willis McGahee, Jeremy Shockey, and the names go on and on and on that list. But, yeah, I mean, you look at how dominant Miami was during that early 2000 run, and that's what Clemson's been able to do these last couple of years. So I think in some ways I would agree with that even though some of these guys might not remember it or might not even been born during those early stages of that dynasty or the middle of that dynasty for Miami, you hear the stories of it. You hear the greats that come back. I mean, Michael Irvin talks about it all the time. I know he's up there a lot, might not be up there as much this year because of Corona, but I think being able to understand like what you used to be, and now there's a team that you're going up against who's take that torch, you have a chance to be able to kind of dethrone them, because if they beat Clemson, their road for the Tigers to be able to get to the college football playoffs is not going to be easy, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
On Twitter, he's at Mike_UVA, Watch Fox 57 in the Midlands of South Carolina. And Mike, when I look at Manny Diaz in year one, they finished under 500, which is a bitter disappointment for that program. But they've recruited well, and I know they're really starting to try to lock down that South Florida area. You're a guy that's been around this sport for a long time. It really has been amazing at how, I don't know if the right terminology is the expanded boards that coaching staffs have, but there are pockets in that area of the country that used to belong solely to the Hurricanes. But Clemson goes in and gets a guy like a Frank Ladson out of there. And so locking down that Miami-Dade County area is a big deal for this crew, no doubt.
Well, I mean, you can look at a place like Florida because we know it's a hotbed for talent. You can look at a place like Texas. You can look at a place like Pennsylvania and California. You know, some of these spots that just, like you mentioned before, they were kind of the areas that the Florida states of the world, at least for Florida, Florida State, Miami, or the University of Florida, they would always just be able to get those hot spots. But, I mean, you talk about just how things have changed so much with just recruiting. Huddle makes things so much easier with being able to get tape out there and coaches from all across the country being able to see. But as we've talked about on your program before, when you have turned your program into a national powerhouse, because that's what Clemson is, and whether people will say that they are the standard right now in college football, which I've said before, if they're not, they're 1A, 1B with Alabama in terms of what we've seen over the last 5-10 years. But to be able to do that, it helps you be able to get some of those guys in people's backyards. But on top of that, when you've seen programs like Miami, like you've seen programs, even though Florida right now is in a top 5 situation, we know that they've gone through a rebuild over the last decade with having 3 different coaches there. What it's allowed are teams like Clemson and Alabama to be able to steal some of those guys out of your backyard, and it changes the whole complexion of recruiting in terms of the future.
That's a great point, and I think the coaching changes are certainly significant. And I look back to Mike and think about this past weekend. It's amazing, and I kind of talked about this with the listeners earlier out of the gates. You win by 18 points, but everybody's frustrated with your program, and winning's hard. I mean, what does it say to you about Clemson that an 18-point victory can be looked at by people? I mean, people are looking down their noses at this team saying, "Oh, well, they're just not that great this year."
Well, it's the standard, and here's my weekly Patriots drop of the week. But I mean, that's what I'm into when I listen to sports talk radio in Boston. Is that even when the Patriots would win by 2 scores or 3 scores on Monday, the talk sports radio stations, they'd be saying, you know, what the Patriots did wrong, because you get to a point where you just expect them to win, and that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't have to all be sunshine and rainbows, because just like the players, Clemson fans are smart enough to realize that right now. And even though college football and pro football is different, because, you know, if Clemson loses, it's going to make things very difficult to be able to get to that college football playoffs, depending on how things play out.
Right.
And that's, you know, that they can control just because of the way the conference has been the last couple of years. But it shows me that you can still go out there, and you got to be able to build knowing that what you do right now, even though, yes, it matters, it really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, once you get to the college football playoff, it's a brand new season. It's a brand new season. You're going to go up against the 4 best teams. If three best teams in the country, you're being that other 4th one, and you have to be able to bring it just like you did in the regular season. So I think understanding those expectations are huge, but being able to obviously do what you have to do to be able to get there. So I think that's where we're at with Clemson, is that people expect them to not only go out there and win, but to dominate. But they also know that ultimately this stuff really doesn't matter, because they just have that feeling that they're going to be in the Final Four.
Again, it'll be the Clemson Tigers and the Miami Hurricanes coming up Saturday night under the lights in Death Valley. Number 1, Clemson. Number 7, Miami. Speaking of ranked teams, the South Carolina Gamecocks have faced a couple of ranked opponents this season, losing at number 3 Florida this past Saturday, 38-24. They lost at home to Tennessee, 31-27. The first weekend, Mike, after the Tennessee loss, we were talking about should they have kicked a field goal late, or being down 7, tried to score a touchdown and gone for it on 4th down, no matter what the down and distance circumstances were. This Saturday, you know where I'm going. I mean, South Carolina late in that game puts together like an 8-minute drive, just some ridiculous number, and they did not look. There was no urgency. I think that might be the best word. Down 14. A couple of bad coaching decisions, in my opinion, peeking over the fence at the Gamecocks the first 2 weeks of the season for Coach Will Muschamp and his team. What were your thoughts on what you saw this past Saturday in Gainesville from the Gamecocks?
You know what's ironic is I listened to a podcast called Part of My Take, and they had the Ole Miss coach on, Lane Kiffin, and they were talking about this situation right before this past week about how coaches, especially in college, they're just not held accountable for mismanaging the clock. And Lane Kiffin admitted that. They said, I just don't know what it is. Muschamp, I'll tell you what, and I give my colleagues credit for hammering with the questions. You were asked on Saturday after the game, hammered with questions on Sunday on the teleconference, and even brought up some questions today. And Muschamp has addressed all of it, whether we agree or disagree with what he has said. But point being is, That's the best word. There was no urgency, and I have no issue with being able to run the football, being able to mix things up still. But in between plays, 15, 20 seconds, and, I'm not a math whiz, but you start adding that up, that's going to be a couple minutes right there. And hurts the Gamecock. So even if you could just get 2 of those minutes back, you talk about being able to score a touchdown. Of course, that didn't happen at the end of the game. But if you're able to score a touchdown there, I don't have the percentage. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's pretty low with being able to recover an onside kick. You don't get that, you're going to have to play some defense. And you got to be able to give yourself some time. So, good thing is the Gamecocks are moving the ball. That's great. But in a situation like that, you're down by 2 scores. Once you get under that 5-minute mark and you're around the 40-yard line, there has to be a sense of urgency. And hopefully this is a good learning experience for them because, man, it was one of the ugliest performances I've seen in terms of clock management in quite some time. I mean, it looked like an Andy Reid team pre-Super Bowl Chiefs last year.
Well, it's a good point because some of my Gamecock friends were watching that game and they're telling me, they're like, we're screaming at the TV, hurry, hurry. You cross a point where getting the play call right, the execution of the play call, that's a different thing, but getting the play call right versus just running plays to try to give yourself a chance, there's a delicate balance there. It looked like South Carolina was way far in the wrong side of that balance for the situation they were in, down 14 points. Now, they'll take on Vanderbilt on the road this weekend in Nashville, and I definitely think this is a winnable game based on what we've seen from South Carolina in the first couple of weeks of the season. But after that, it's going to get tough again for the Gamecocks. So I really have to feel like this is one of those quote-unquote must-win games for South Carolina against Vandy, given their next 3 games with Auburn, LSU, and A&M on the docket.
And my story angle this week, and I asked Gamecock fans after that loss on Saturday, I said, you might not believe me, but my feelings are that this team really is not too far away from being able to take that next step forward. They could easily be 2-0 right now. And I'm not just saying that to be Mr. Optimistic. I think Clemson fans would even look at it and be like, yeah, they had their opportunities, just self-inflicted wounds. And I know we could play this popsicle headache game with saying, well, Florida had some mistakes and this and that. But the point being is Florida's a top 5 team. And you had an opportunity to be able to not just score down there, but put yourself in a situation to be able to make it a 1-possession game. You talk about a lot of those self-inflicted wounds. You had 6 drop passes in the first half, 12 missed tackles in the game. 4 of them coming on that one play in the second half when the receiver went 60-plus yards, 50-plus yards through 4 or 5 guys. It's inacceptable. So with that all being said, these are things that South Carolina can clean up. The problem is when you're in year 5, number 1, fans don't want to hear that. Number 2, boosters don't want to hear that. And number 3, you start to worry if you're starting to lose that locker room. So being able to go out there and get a win that you should be able to get a win, I don't care if Vanderbilt looks better in week 1 against Texas A&M. What do you do? They're still Vanderbilt. And that's the way I look at it. Until they prove otherwise, they're still Vanderbilt, a team that you haven't lost to since 2008. If you lay an egg in this one, man, I don't know how you can keep that locker room with Muschamp still. And I've said it from the beginning that I can't see, regardless of how the season goes out, Muschamp can go 0-10. I can't see USC moving on from him just because of the circumstances right now, financially with the coronavirus and the pandemic going on. But, man, how can you move forward with this team, with Muschamp, if they lose this week? And I think that's the biggest thing is you got to worry about as you head over to Nashville.
I cannot. Look, I've got a lot of great Gamecock friends. I got a lot of great Gamecock listeners that peek over the fence. I know there is a segment of my listenership that would love nothing more than to watch South Carolina start the season 0-6. And, Mike, I'll be honest, if they don't win this Saturday, that might become a reality. And I really don't want that for that Gamecock program, quite frankly, because when I watch them, I see what you're talking about. I see a team that it feels like has a chance in these games, from the botched punt return against Tennessee to the botched tackling against Florida, even to perhaps the last pass in that game that probably should have been a touchdown if Hill doesn't throw that ball behind his wide receiver. I think that was Smith on that play. But there's a level of frustration that the Gamecock fan base will reach if they don't win this weekend, because they will also begin to be glaring down the barrel of 0-6 start in a shortened season. And that's a difficult place to be because people just aren't, psychologically right now, COVID-19, people aren't where they were, in a normal calendar year.
And I don't even know if the pandemic difference, if you take that away, I'm still sure a lot of Gamecock fans would still be on edge with just how things have gone over the last couple of years. But there's no question about it that it cranks things up a little bit more right now because of that. And look, I'm sure there's some people that say, oh, you're just being optimistic because you want Muschamp to succeed and this and that. I've said this before. My job is a heck of a lot easier when Clemson and USC are winning. I mean, it makes things more enjoyable too. So of course I want to see them do well. But just being like, and I don't like to say the whole former football player thing, but I can just see it. I can sense that South Carolina really is right there. But at some point, yes, that clock's going to run out because you can be there, okay, right there, year 3, right there, year 4, year 5. One is that point where you have to make a decision. I think right now, South Carolina, they're going to be able to turn things around. I think a lot of people look at their record and be like, all right, they're 0-2. They'll be lucky to get 3-4 wins this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they're able to turn things around. And I'm not trying to go down the schedule and say this game and that game, but they could get 5 wins. They could get 6 wins. They can turn things around. It's just not going to be easy. But a lot of it just starts with themselves, and they've just been really shooting themselves in the foot, as you alluded to, with some of those self-inflicted wounds over these last 2 weeks.
I mean, you're all over it. I agree. I think that they've had their chances, and unfortunately they've squandered them. I think we could probably debate whether or not we really believe Florida's the third-ranked team in the polls. I know they're tied with Georgia in 1, but that's where they are at this point, so we just kind of have to roll with that. But South Carolina had their chances, Mike. There's no doubt about it. Buddy, hey, listen, always appreciate you, man. You guys keep up the great work. Watch Fox 57 in the Midlands of South Carolina. Again, Mike Uva joining us on Twitter. He's at Mike_UVA. Mike, tell everybody about what you guys have lined up throughout the week. I know for fans who want to catch a glimpse, you used to have some specialized shows there on Watch Fox 57, but tell them about what you guys do for local sports coverage.
Man, we do a lot, and that's been the privilege during these last couple of months because I know some of the other stations have kind of shut down, but with sports, we continue to go after it locally from pro to college to high school. We show a Friday night rivals game, so if you want to watch some high school football, you don't want to leave your couch on a Friday night, you can tune in, whether you're in the Midlands or outside of the Midlands. Go to WACH.com, live stream some high school football. We got a great one this weekend. Be able to just get involved with just sports throughout the state. So it's always a privilege to be able to talk football and just sports here in South Carolina, because I'm not just saying this. I was fortunate to work in Mississippi and Massachusetts beforehand. South Carolina has some talent, and it's not just at the college level.
Mike, buddy, have a great week. Always appreciate you.
Thank you, Swanee. Take care, buddy.
Mike Uval, Watch Fox 57 in the Midlands of South Carolina. 803-450-0086. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Mike. Lots of fun catching up with him. We'll hear from Amari Rogers. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. We'll hear from Amari Rogers coming up here on the show in just a few minutes after the upcoming break. But, again, I am not, and some of you are probably thinking, how can you not be, Swanee? Don't you? I was telling my Gamecock friends this past weekend, and you can chime in on this if you kind of feel this way, that Clemson's hit this level of success where, as somebody that covers the Tigers and as somebody that's a Clemson graduate, I don't have to be all up in knots about what South Carolina's doing. And quite frankly, I enjoy it.
Your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword FUN to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's FUN to 200-200.
Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic. Sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive. Home of the best tire prices in Columbia. Guaranteed. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Traffic spots to avoid this afternoon. Highway 6 at Andrew Corley. Also, I-26 westbound near the Chapin exit. I'm Rob Sanders. Reach out to me on the 103.5 FM. WVOC traffic tip line 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by South Carolina Education Lottery. The Mega Millions jackpot for Tuesday is $50 million. Be sure to stop by South Carolina Education Lottery retailer and get your ticket today. Jackpot odds 1 in 300,575,350.
For all your plumbing problems and needs, On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air is here to help. Available 24/7 to serve you with trained technicians, not trained salespeople. Whether your plumbing job is large or small, it's the right job for On-Call. Receive installations, repairs, and everything in between from the company you can trust to do it right. On-Call is your locally owned and operated plumbing company. Go to OnCallSC.com.
On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Pick up the phone and we'll be right there. Call 781-HELP.
It
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. Feedbig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to ditch the car and start rollerblading to work.
I look ridiculous.
You look ridiculous!
You don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your organs on the black market.
Lie back. This is gonna hurt.
Yeah, that hurts. You don't need to rent out your apartment to drifters.
I made a fire with the wood in your bedroom.
That's my dresser!
And your closet door.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. And you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio prediabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Stay on top of today's pop culture. Ace and TJ Mornings and today's hit music all day on 104.7 WNOK.
It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you. Thank you for being along for the ride. Like, share, subscribe, do all that. Let's get some more people in the building. Host a watch party. Yeah. Watch Party Central. Let's get some people up in here. There's hurricanes everywhere. John from Archdale hits us up. He says, Swanee, John, sadly, this will tell you how much I am able to follow everything going on in the world with my day job, then this job, plus the website. I talked about the hurricane or tropical depression or whatever earlier. John says, Swanee, that's a Category 4 hurricane right now.
Go!
My bad. I just looked it up. John's right.
Oh, God, no. I get my news from the internet like every other normal person under 70.
Got it from the internet. Yes, it is. And again, it looks like there could be some remnants of it. Dabo Swinney was asked about that earlier today, and I don't have that audio for you, but it is over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. What I do have for you, however, is Amari Rogers. And, boy, you talk about a young man whose career a year ago when his knee injury and how quickly he bounced back, like in 5 months to come back, had the brace on all year, but still was explosive, and now doesn't have that brace on, but still very, very explosive nonetheless. And, you know, watching that young man and his development as a wide receiver, Dabo Swinney always talks about how it's a developmental game. Well, he's a kid who's clearly benefited through his time at Clemson, has gotten better and better, and just now really has maybe become this year with Joseph Ngata being a little bit absent from the offense and Frank Ladson beginning to emerge. I think it's clearly Trevor Lawrence's most comfortable target. And here's what Amari Rodgers had to say about the type of season that he's had so far.
I'm having a ton of fun, man. I feel like this is definitely the most fun I've had since I've been here. Just putting in the work with my brothers, and, we're going out there and balling out on Saturdays. All the hard work that I put in is finally starting to pay off, and I'm starting to see it. It's just doing nothing but motivate me more to put more work in so I can continue to grow as a player. I'm just excited to see where the journey's going to go from here.
Now, as for Clemson, of course, they've been in a lot more situations like this ball game that they'll face against Miami coming up on Saturday. I mean, you could just go back a couple of games to their matchup in the national championship or their matchup against Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, this is a team that's been in the biggest games on the biggest stage, and they're accustomed to it. Miami, not so much. And here's what Amari thought about the experience advantage that gives Clemson.
Yeah, for sure. Big-time games like that, those are always games that you look forward to because, it's the best of the best. Being a competitor of my own, I definitely look forward to games like this because, you get better going into games and coming out of these games, going against the best. They're a great defense, very athletic, very fast. You got to be very technique sound at the receiver position playing against them. So, going into this game, I'm definitely locked in, very detail-oriented as far as what our plan is going to be. Hopefully we can go out there and execute the plan well.
So that's Amari Rodgers talking about the Miami Hurricanes. He also, and I didn't realize this, but Amari Rodgers took Andrew Booth under his wing and has sort of tried to help Andrew. And you saw some issues with Andrew a year ago, especially in that Louisville game, getting thrown out for getting in a fight. And, Amari just kind of gravitated to him for whatever reason. Here's what Amari Rodgers had to say about their relationship.
For sure. Just doing what Coach Sweeney says, just treating every game like it's the biggest game of the year just because it's the next one. So just creating that mindset on the team, that's the next game, and it's the biggest game of the year just because it's the next one. And, we just got to lock in and win the day on Saturday. So we just got to do what we got to do in order to get the win.
Clearly, my notes left that one out. And I'm hopeful that this is Amari Rodgers talking about his relationship with Andrew Booth.
Just ever since he's gotten here, I've just noticed how serious he's been and how serious he is about his craft and how he wants to be great. He wants to be one of the best to ever do it. And I can see that in him. I saw that since he's gotten here. I'm attracted to that because, I'm the same way. We both grind. We both work our tails off to go out there and produce for our team. I gravitate to anybody that's like that. So I saw that in him. He was a young guy last year, first getting here, starting to learn defense and stuff like that. And I just kept in his ear. I said, bro, if you learn defense, you're going to be special because you got all the abilities, you got all the athletic abilities. You can catch. He played receiver in high school, so he already has the ball skills. He's strong, man. He's very long, strong, lengthy, and physical. He's super physical. He loves to come down and tackle. You rarely see that from corners like the tackle, but he loves to. I'm just attracted to the grit, and he's a dog, man. You gotta love that. I'm just excited to see where it's going to go for him in the future.
There you go. Amari Rodgers speaking earlier today to members of the media. We'll hear what he thinks about his relationship with Trevor Lawrence coming up in just a few minutes. But first, I want to go back to some things you guys have put in. Trey says, man, I've heard for 3 years about Cornell Powell dominating in practice. Will he ever show up in an actual game? And look, he's a young man that I've still got very high hopes for this season. And there's got to be a level of frustration for Cornell. He had a bad false start this past weekend, and that's something that gets you not necessarily in the doghouse, but the guy taken out of the ball game. And if you get taken out of the ball game and you don't get but X amount of snaps, well, you might lose a couple of opportunities. This season, just 6 receptions for 45 yards, no touchdowns. But I do expect him to continue to be one of those players for Clemson that the Tigers are looking to really try to get a little more juice out of in 2020. Just being honest with you, I think that that's one of those things that, as somebody who's kind of watched this young man throughout his career, I'm with you, Trey. I'm ready to see a breakout performance. DeAndre Overton a year ago had a 3-touchdown game against Boston College, and you kind of thought, aha, glad you hung around. And you hear a lot of people talk about Cornell Powell. You hear Dabo Swinney talk about Cornell Powell and his willingness to bide his time and work his way into the system. And I really think that's what you want to see, is a kid like that finally have a breakout performance. And we just haven't. And this year it hadn't been great. And he's given up some opportunities by making some mistakes here and there. So I hope he does have a big weekend. All right, when we come back, Amari Rogers talks about his relationship with Big Trev, the Giant Killer, here on the show that shakes the Southland. Stay with us.
Celebrate the 20th anniversary of Linkin Park's debut album, Hybrid Theory.
It's our iHeartRadio album listening party with Linkin Park. Hear the stories behind the legendary album.
Our iHeartRadio album listening party with Linkin Park.
Hybrid Theory really encapsulated all of our spirit as young people wanting to make music.
Hear it Friday night at 7
on Alt Radio on the iHeartRadio app.
Lawton Swan here, and I know in sports we're always talking about the big guy. Well, let me tell you, when you're buying a car, you don't need that. What you need to do is head down to Orangeburg to my good friends at Ferry Chevrolet Cadillac. 4 generations of family-owned business right there at Ferry Chevrolet. No dock fees, no tricks, straightforward pricing in a low-pressure environment you'll love. Check them out online, ferrychevrolet.com, or call them 803-536-1600. It's Ferry Chevrolet Cadillac, just a short 30-minute drive off of exit 145A in Orangeburg.
When a community grows, its hospital should grow too. And that's just what we're doing at Lexington Medical Center. We recently launched the largest hospital expansion project in South Carolina history. Our new 10-story patient tower will help us take better care of patients, including the tiniest infants who need special attention. It will also make room for the growing number of patients who need surgery and intensive care. At Lexington Medical Center, our mission to serve our community never wavers. We're here when you need us today, and we'll be there when you need us tomorrow.
For 28 years, the professional staff of the Hobbs Group and Hobbs Group Advisors has been dedicated to helping others achieve their financial goals by delivering quality, objective financial and accounting solutions to a diverse client base of individuals and businesses all over South Carolina. We offer tax and audit services, bookkeeping, payroll, litigation support, employee benefits, personal financial planning, investment management, and insurance services. Please call us at 803-799-0555 or visit our website, hobbscpa.com, to learn more about our people and services.
This is Clay Travis. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina.
You hear this debate all the time in sports. Who won the divorce? Kobe, Shaq, Brady, Belichick? After an impressive Monday night win, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are now 4-0, and to say Mike McCarthy is struggling in Dallas would be a massive understatement. Rodgers hasn't thrown an interception all year. All the rumors we've heard were true. Aaron clearly didn't respect McCarthy at the end of their time at Lambeau. I'm Colin Cowherd.
They say defense wins championships. Defense protects your health, too. If you're a federal employee in South Carolina, active or retired, the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Service Benefit Plan packs a wallop. Learn more at fepblue.org. They've been standing beside federal employees since 1960.
In 1983, Diane Downs did something unthinkable to her children. She then showed up to her trial, pregnant.
Diane had gotten pregnant again. I don't think anyone in the press knew that yet.
Join host Melissa Moore as she helps that child, Becky Babcock, navigate her connection to a killer. iHeartRadio is #1 for podcasts, and it's easy to see why. Find Happy Face presents Two-Face on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I do the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
It's sports radio done only the way Fox can do it.
There's always something to talk about. There's always controversy. And
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Back at it. The show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. I just had to check and see if that would echo, and it did. Sorry. All right, so, man, always good to catch up with Mike Yuva. Great to hear from Amari Rogers. We want to hear from you. Do us a favor. Like, subscribe, share. Right now, if you haven't already, if you don't support us, we'd love to have you become a supporter. I saw somebody the other day. We post a story. We don't post all our stories, aren't premium stories, but we do want to certainly protect those people that invest in what we do by giving you guys some premium looks at some things and some insight into recruiting that other people don't get. And, we put an article together, and I saw somebody on Facebook say, why am I going to pay for that? Look, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can eat where you want to eat. You can shop where you want to shop. And you can, support the websites that you want to support. Like, there's no need to have a stance about it on social media. Either you support it, because believe me, my family doesn't eat for free. I got to eat too, If you want to support us, we'd love to have you. If you don't, that's fine. But there's no reason. I don't drive by expensive restaurants and why are you so expensive? I just keep driving. I just don't stop there. If 18 cents a day, $5.25 a month, or $63.17, as we say for our Gamecock fans, peeking over the fence.
So you could continue to peek over the fence at the best radio show in the nation.
If Clemson owned and operated is not what you want to support, then you don't have to. But you don't have to shout out, I'm not paying to read that. Okay, don't. It's fine. I'm not paying to eat that expensive food. Well, go eat somewhere else. It's fine. We may not be the McDonald's of this thing. We may never even be the Burger King. My goal is to be the Five Guys. Right? You guys, you know what I'm talking about. Five Guys, by the way, if you want to be a sponsor of the show, hit me up. All right, so NFL talent. Miami's had it for many, many years. They continue to have it in the secondary this season as well. And here's what Amari Rogers had to say about the Hurricane secondary.
Yeah, I definitely see NFL guys all over the field for them. They're very, like I said earlier, very fast. They're very physical. They do a great job of what they're taught by their coaching staff. And, it's definitely fun playing against the guys that is going to be at the next level because it's going to bring the best out of you. So I definitely strive to play against the best, so I know where I'm at after the game and what I need to work on as far as what I did wrong and stuff like that. So I definitely look forward to these games just so I can compete, grow as a player.
And just between you and me, I hope that Trevor Lawrence and Amari Rogers are all in Miami's grits this Saturday in Death Valley, to use a phrase from Dabo Swinney. But there's a special relationship between Amari and Big Trev, and here's what Amari had to say about the duo.
Yeah, for sure. Being the type of receiver that I am with the experience that I've had and playing, this being my third year starting with Trevor, that connection is definitely built up throughout the years. And I feel like now we're at the point to where in that play, I just threw my hand up. I feel like I was open. I had beat him over top. I feel like when I'm over top, with my strength, I'm able to battle and get back to the ball wherever it is. So I just threw my hand up, and I knew he was going to give me a chance because this happens too many times in practice. So it was just like practice when the ball was in the air, just go get it. I had in my mind, it's in the air. I want to be the one that come down with it. So that was my mindset. I just went and attacked the ball. He put it in the perfect place. That's just how it worked out. It worked out perfectly.
EFFORT, effortless is the way Trevor Lawrence made that throw look to Amari Rogers in the back of the end zone this past weekend against the Virginia Cavaliers. Amari was also asked about, his role in helping the young guys, the young wide receivers mature. I mean, when he got to Clemson, Mike Williams was on that roster. I think Artavis Scott was on that roster, if my memory. No, Scott would have just left. Mike Williams certainly was on that roster, trying to go back. Maybe Ray McLeod. They all now sort of run together. But here's what he had to say about coaching up some of those young guys.
I wouldn't say it's my group because I'm not the only really experienced guy in the room. It's me, Cornell Powell. It's a lot of guys that's played a lot. I feel like it's our group as a whole. I feel like we do a great job as leaders, leading our group and making sure we're all locked in and detail oriented. And, you know, as far as coaching up, you know, I try to coach up my teammates as much as I can. Whenever I see something that I feel like they could have done better, or I feel like I would have done something in that situation, you know, I tell them, I let them know. And, you know, they take it in, you know, they do it. So it's just great knowing that we have that bond in our receiving room and that connection with each other, that we're able to coach each other up. And, you know, we have that relationship to where we can depend on each other and we trust each other with the information we give each other.
So there you go. Amari Rogers talking earlier today up in Tiger Town about that the Clemson Tiger wide receiver core and the guys that he was working with. So let's see. That freshman year, there would have been Hunter Renfro there. You would have had Ray McLeod. You would have had I'm looking here to see. I don't see Mike Williams on that squad. May have been interesting. Travion Thompson. Yeah, just trying to look up and down this roster to see. Deion Kane would have been there. I don't know why Mike Williams. Was Williams already gone that season? It doesn't feel like it, but I guess he was. I guess Mike Williams' final year was the previous year back in 2016. Kind of sad when you think about it. How quickly some of these careers go, isn't it? Man, are we that far removed from Mike Williams? Yeah. Yeah, we sure are. We sure are. Artavis Scott was on that team, was a junior that year, but then Rogers comes in the following season. So Amari Rogers. Man, that makes me feel old. I don't know about y'all, but Mike Williams has been gone that long? Sheesh. Where'd the time go? 803-450. Speaking of where the time go, final segment coming up. Man. Then again, in fairness, Amari Rogers and Artavis Scott looked eerily similar to one another in that number 3 jersey at wideout as well. We hit a quick break. We put a bow on the show here on a Tuesday afternoon. Again, Clemson Sports Talk rolls along.
Tiger fans, look no further than the Tiger Sports Shop in Clemson for all your game day needs. Since 1974, they've brought you everything Clemson for the Clemson fan. With quality brands such as Nike, Antigua, Cutter and Buck, and Champion, plus many more, from hats to t-shirts to tailgate, the Tiger Sports Shop has all the Clemson gear a true Tiger fan needs. With 2 convenient game day locations in Tiger Town, shop where I shop at Dr. I.M. Ibrahim's Tiger Sports Shop. They fuel the passion of Tiger fans everywhere. Check them out online, tigersports.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention all women who have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder and shower-to-shower talcum products have been linked to ovarian cancer. In February and May 2016, Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $72 million and $55 million by 2 juries to 2 women who contracted ovarian cancer after years of using talcum baby powder products. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used talcum powder prior to the diagnosis, call Talcum Powder Help Now today at 800-833-0112. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. The consultation is free and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. Don't fight this alone. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Powder Help Now at 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112.
Paid for by Bar Justice.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat and Place. Just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat and Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C. Take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D. Help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Sharing has never meant as much as it does now. We share the things we love most in life for the world to see. But what if we could actually do more with our sharing than just collect likes? What if this sharing could be used to make a difference? Now there's a place where we can put all that sharing to good use. The National MS Society is asking people to make a difference and share what they love with someone else who loves it too. Whether it's surfing, dancing, or whatever is important to you, we've created a place that'll help you get your experience out to the world. If you have a story, share it. If you have a solution, share that too. Join us at wearestrongerthanms.org, because together, we are stronger.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Online at foxsportsradio1400.com. On your phone with the iHeartRadio app and on hundreds of devices like Alexa, Google Home, Xbox, and Sonos. An iHeartRadio station.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Tuesday, the show that shakes the Southland. Lawton Swan with you. There's hurricanes everywhere. Dabo Swinney said it. Ben Zero says this game is going to be the best game of the season, not just for Clemson, but in all of college football. Assuming we make it, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Miami in the ACC championship game again at the end of the season. So big thoughts there from Bent Zero. Just checking to see some of our other messages that have come in today. Ben also mentioned the fact that, look at here, not even loading. Come on, computer. He said it was interesting to see us use 3 down linemen against Virginia. Do you think we'll see much of that against Miami? You know, I'd have to go back. I didn't chart it to see how often it was used against Virginia, but I do think with a guy like D'Eriq King at quarterback, that, you know, the more speed that you can get on the field and in 2020 versus them is probably a positive, and that 3-4 front certainly presents that. I think the other thing, too, looking back at it, you know, when you don't have a guy like Isaiah Simmons, you may be a little more willing to do this with Clemson, given how good they are up front. And we saw it a year ago. And this is the thing about Brent Venables. He's willing to be versatile. You know, I think that there are coaches out there that can get stagnant and they just kind of get in the same routines and they do the same thing. And the fan base is sitting there in the stands watching these guys.
I'll knock your brains out of your head, Annie.
And you're thinking, what's wrong? Why can't you figure out that everybody in America knows what you're doing because you've done this same thing for, you know, the past 15 seasons. What Brent Venables does is, in my opinion, And I think if you probably went around, there are certainly some tendencies and some pressures and a willingness to attack that he has that maybe a lot of defensive coordinators don't have. He tries to dictate things. He doesn't like to play on his heels. He's got that linebacker's mentality, man, that middle linebacker. He's wanting to come at you the whole time. And so because of that, what he's had to do through the years is be willing to change up some of what he wants to do to keep a downhill posture. And I don't mean physically from the team standpoint of always rushing and blitzing and attacking. Now, that's a part of what he wants to do a good bit. But just being, self-aware enough to say, okay, if I'm going to achieve the level of success that I want to achieve, and I want to do it consistently through the years, then there has to be some things that I am willing to yield on as a coach. And I think that is perhaps, when we look at Dabo Swinney and we start talking about, and we can mention or get into tomorrow, Bill O'Brien's job comes open in the NFL and everybody's like, oh, here we go. Dabo to Texas. Go coach Deshaun. And then Greg McElroy essentially said, yeah, Dabo Swinney's just a figurehead, nothing to it. But see, what Dabo Swinney is a great businessman, a great CEO, runs a great operation, builds up his employees, keeps everybody happy, figures out a way to make people want to strive and be successful for the best, for what's best for the group and not what's best for the individual. One of the things that Brent Venables does is, in my opinion, kind of watching him is, he is a critic of himself, like nobody to nobody's, you can't compare him to anybody. Like nobody in the media is as critical of Brent Venables as Brent Venables. None of you are as critical of Brent Venables as Brent Venables. But what's great about this, as critical as he is of himself, he has a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And so he's constantly trying to figure out, what can I do? And I think that this is not just in a week-by-week basis. I think it's in a quarter-by-quarter, maybe even drive-by-drive, trying to figure out what he's got in his wheelhouse to help make his defenders be more successful. Listen, if you like this program today, if you've never been here, thank you. I am falling asleep at the wheel. I mentioned this earlier. We've got a new setup here at the Palatial Studios, and I'm having to adjust some of that, and trying to do that's kind of caused me to forget some of the things over here on the other side of the room for our live video feed on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you'll forgive me for some of the bottom scrolls today, I think we had a great show. But if you like it, I would encourage you to head over to ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Consider posting in our forums. Become the heartbeat of our website. Become the heartbeat of that site that some people don't think it's worth supporting. But if you do think our website is worth supporting, if you do want to back us and help us continue to grow, come on in. Just $63.17 for 1 year coverage, $5.25, something like that, a month. That's an incredible number. Matter of fact, while we're here, we may as well check it out. Alexa, what is $63.17 divided by 12?
$63 divided by 12 is $5.26.
$5.26 a month. Come support us. Come be a part of Clemson Sports Talk. We'd love to have you. Thank you again to everybody who's a part of the program today. Appreciate Mike Yuva joining us in hour number 2. We will be back tomorrow right here 22 hours from now to kick things off with you on the show that shakes the Southland. Until then, as always, y'all take care now, and go Tigers.
Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports. Fox Sports Radio 1400. Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive, home of the best tire prices in Columbia. Guaranteed.